Joining me from London is Patrick Christys, soccer fan and terrific presenter on GB News. Patrick Christys, always great to see you. Whose side are you on here? Iran and Egypt saying, look, they're just there for the football, not political messaging, but from activist organisers. Or are you on the side of the organisers who want to promote gay rights to a couple of countries that actually persecute gays?
Yeah, tough choice, this one, Andrew. I'm on the side of just play soccer. So by the time that we've taken the knee, acknowledged that the games are being played on stolen land, done a rain dance and thanked the ancestors, I think we might see someone kick a ball. What next? Are the French going to have to score an own goal straight from kickoff to apologise for the Norman invasion of 1066? Are we going to have an anti-pillaging match between Norway and Sweden to acknowledge their Viking past? I mean, it's pretty comical stuff, this. When the World Cup was in Qatar, we had to respect their culture. People ignored the fact that stadiums had been built by slaves, the lack of women's rights. In 2036, I believe it is, that the World Cup is played in Saudi Arabia. Will we hold a minute's silence at the start of the game to remember all the people the Crown Prince has beheaded, or the number of journalists he's executed in brutal fashion in places like Turkey? No, of course we won't. This is ridiculous, suicidal self-criticism. And, you know, it's no wonder that people are laughing at this. I mean, the Australians have got a slightly weird game as well, I think, at the World Cup, haven't you?
No, we're also in Seattle, and the organisers, we're playing against the hosts, the US, June 19, and the organisers have decided to mark that event by celebrating Juneteenth, which is apparently to mark the end of slavery in the US. And I wondered, you know, is there going to be a game, some celebration in the games of Morocco and Tunisia for their own slavery past? Morocco's was much more recent, and we didn't even have slavery in Australia. Or is, slavery only a white person's sin? I don't get it, Patrick.
Yeah, but this is it, isn't it? You know, we obviously will have to acknowledge all of our own wrongs, etc., even though some of them, in the case of the Australians, literally just don't exist. We will have to do that. But they'll bow down to this, you see. This is the thing, because in the hierarchy of rights and the hierarchy of offence, okay, basically, if you offend quite hardline Muslim nations, that is the ultimate no-no. So I think that they're going to end up caving here, and we're not going to be seeing, you know, Iran versus Egypt celebrating any kind of LGBT culture whatsoever. So I think we couldn't really offend the Muslim nations, which is why, frankly, we keep giving them World Cups in the first place. You know, for this organisation FIFA to claim about things, that they care about things like what we've been speaking about here, you know, they could demonstrate that by not giving World Cups to places like Russia, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. That would probably be a bigger statement than the odd rainbow armband.
Good point, Patrick. Now, a very interesting intervention in your politics. And I think you've demonstrated. You've gone over to France, and you've actually seen those boat people, jump on these boats with French police just standing there watching them as they sail off to Britain in a flood of illegal immigrants there. But now the man who polls say could be the next president of France, the right-wing anti-immigration party leader Jordan Bardella, he has met your Nigel Farage and said he'd help to restore Britain's borders. And not just those borders either. How big is this a move?
Oh, it's massive, actually. I mean, the only solution is to turn the boats back. Again, the Australians know that better than anybody else. But unfortunately for us, pound shop Napoleon Emmanuel Macron just hasn't been letting us do it. He's happy to take £1 billion of British taxpayers' cash and just do nothing with it. I mean, going into the next election, you could have a very interesting case here where Nigel Farage might be able to say that he is legitimately the only bloke with a solid plan, because this supposedly, anyway, incoming French president, is willing to do this boats turn back business, but really only with Nigel Farage at the helm. So that on its own could be an election victory. But I mean, I think we're probably going to come on to talk about this, but we've had a recent case here with two Afghan migrants who arrived on a small boat, have just been found guilty of raping a 15-year-old girl in a park. And actually, this is one of many similar cases. And a normal country, Andrew, would respond to that kind of thing, I think, by turning the boats back immediately. But of course, not here in Britain. We're going to have to wait for a French president to tell us that we're allowed to do it before we see any action there.
Oh, that is a shocking case. A 15-year-old girl. No one intervened, by the way, when she was pleading for help, and they dragged her off. Two unaccompanied minors claiming to be 17 years old that jumped on a boat and came over to Britain and caused this terrible trauma to this girl. But, you know, it's all very well saying, here's a potential French president coming to rescue Britain. Britain isn't doing anything for itself, Patrick, because I can't believe these new figures that say that even when you've got illegal immigrants told they can't stay in Britain, 40% of them still do. How does that happen?
Yeah, it's the latest in a long line of devastating figures, actually. It turns out that our Home Office has absolutely no idea where a third of asylum seekers are. A third of the asylum seekers who've arrived in the last few years, we don't know where they are. You've got 40% of the people that we've rejected are still here in Britain. We are also still paying for them. They're able to access a special kind of benefit just for rejected asylum seekers, which I didn't know existed until yesterday. Also, we've only deported less than 4% of people who've arrived by small boats since the start of the small boats crisis. So if you are an illegal migrant, you really do know that the odds are massively stacked in your favour for coming here to Britain and being able to stay here in Britain, don't you? I mean, it's an absolutely ridiculous situation that we've got at the moment. And those people as well, by the way, who have just gone missing, there is a reason why a lot of them have gone missing. There was another report that said that 1 in every 100 people living in these migrant hotels has either committed a crime, is charged with a crime, or is wanted for a crime. So if that is you, why are you going to stick around and wait for us to say that we might deport you one day when you could just abscond, which is what's happening? There's also cases now of people who have been waiting for their asylum claims so long that they've managed to find a bride in Britain and have a child with them, which I'm sure all of these relationships are entirely genuine and above board, Andrew. But of course, that makes it very, very difficult for us to deport them again, doesn't it? So we are being gamed here every single which way you look.
It's just such an extraordinary story. And Patrick, I won't see you next week. I'll be doing my last show on Wednesday. Someone else, hopefully, will talk to you on the Thursday. But I've got to thank you for doing this show this year. I mean, I've really loved talking to you. But I tell you what, I hope the news next year from Britain is a bit better than you've been able to find for us this year, because this is a country in decline, it seems. But anyway, look, not just seems, it damn well is. And I hope that, that you get President Trump's message to buck up. So, Patrick, good on you. Have a great Christmas, and I hope to see you next year.
Thank you, Andrew, and love to the family and everyone at Styles. Bye.